C'est un peu bas ça, mais... I want to present a few maps we realize, and after quite quickly why we decide to move to the countryside. The beginning of the work of mapping was about property, with the idea of the question: where are the producer of producers and the condition of production of forms and structures? What is how the producer and the forms appears? And the question of property, we think it's one, we can see that through property. Here in this map, we see institutional and financial power. It's interlinking between industrial groups and financial groups in Europe. And in a way, it's a very big machine who produce a part of the reality. And with this part of reality, you have a part of the production of art, production of design, and also production of the social system. After that, we make more important maps also on these subjects. And yes, the situation now, you know, you have like 20 financial funds who own the 750 first transnational in the world, and it's you have strong consequences in the production of forms, of bodies, and then structure in our reality. A specific example, if we take just a small part of that, we can have group like that. It's the Lagardère group. It's it's a map from 2004, and at this time, it was one of the first group who produced weapons in Europe, and also a very important group who produce media, communications, who own edition, books, radio, also alternative radio, diffusion, distribution. You have this interconnection between weapons and media, and it's all based in property. You have here, you have all is list of newspaper and magazines, and it's like in this time it was between 60 and 80% of newspaper, magazines, books, like that. For example, it's like a ironic image. You have a book about the agony of capitalism, and this book was produced by publisher of this big industrial group. Then I want to show another work of mapping. You have the entry through property, and another entry is about the state. We make during few years a long inquiry about the French state to understand what is this machine of production. Now, just before, I must explain why we make this map, because we make this map as a map of the enemy, because we think it's a way of producing imaginations and to its codification of knowledge also, and a different kind of content. And we think it's important to have this image of the enemy to diffuse other way of producing content, art, and it's for like autonomous networks to diffuse books, films, radio, and like that. And it's a reason we make this analysis. It's like a tool. It's a tool to act, to know why we act in this direction, to realize a cooperative, to diffuse our own media. Then we make also this work about the state. It's, yes, during a few years, and we decide to focus on the relationships between the state and the production, reproduction, and government of non-human living bodies. The state is not just institution. I show after the method we use, because we change quite a little bit our method for this work. First, the basis, we make lists like that. It's all the actors who are implied in the production of non-human living bodies. We are also a part of us, and all the people here are a part of this system. And we meet also people who are in this list to speak about this system and to discuss about this structure. We make also inquiry in history to understand how appears the structure of the system. Then we make a new method of representation, like with a pictographic grammar. You have 6 parts, and all is different parts of the state. The state is not just institution, but you have also technical and symbolic systems. You have waste. You have non-human beings, and I explain for which reason. The first is the first part of the machine. It's who produce norms and politics and government and standards, and it's the human organizations. You have here like the public organizations, and you have like I don't know the term in English, but you have like collective organizations between public and private. It's like quite complex, where you have also associations in this system, and you have a long process of integrations of all the components in a global governmental system. Then you have different part of it. You have the classical, we see like a ministry like that, but you have many offices and also private group, because the French state is also a very big owner of companies. And you have also different kind of social organizations and lobby and like that. The second part, I don't show the second part. The second part, but maybe I speak after about that. The third part is technical and symbolic system. I show 3 maps, one about the governmental structure, one about the racial and the racial production of bodies, the selection and like that, the racial politics, and the third is more about government of agriculture and government of non-human bodies through telecommunications. Look, you have also, but then you have technical systems, because you have like a scanning of the territory for managing agriculture with different kind of captors. And you have calculation centers, not just in France, but like international calculation centers, to manage the territory, and also to for example, for the, but maybe I present more precisely after the map. The third part is like symbolic system, because you have a lot of norms and indication and money to orient and to govern in which way the production what is the way to develop the production of non-human living bodies. Then you have also human beings and also non-human beings, and you have two parts in it. You have the living bodies who can live because they are useful for the production. Like you have, I don't know, licensed plant seeds, you have the seeds, you have also for the animals, you have selections of bodies and the kind of species who can exist and the species who cannot exist. And you have lists of that and like a government of all these bodies. Yes, you have also, I show that in the specific map. Donc, here it's the qualification of the actors. And after you have the structure of production. Because in a way it's like a huge industry. Not just an industry, but also a laboratory. Here you have like line of production. And it's not just a fiction, it's we may collect and to understand how it works. And you have like a government for each line of productions, like line of productions of wine, a line of production of meat, and like that. After you have a place for coordinations between these different lines, coordinations, normalizations, research, racial politics, and like that. And after, you have government from the top to the left, production, transformation, distribution, consumption. And you have different kind of government in each of these levels. Then the map is like that, where you see the same structure with the different actors you have in this production line. Now here it's very classical approach of government. Here it's quite different. It's governing through information. Then you have also, it's not completely finished system for that, but you have projects to, yes, you have, I think, the same in Germany, the question of traceability and identifications during all the moment of the production. And this analyze goes through information systems and where all the farmers, for example, have the obligations to enter all the data about the territory to have some aids from Europe. Then you have like a correlations between production of data and control and normalizations. Yes, it's a rational system. You have that for production and also for governing the different bodies with the question of the sheep for animals, for example. Sheep for animals. You have now also this big project about Internet of Things and the question of put sheep on objects, and its object is also food. Then you have like a huge system to have like you have the reality and you have a second level with all this governmental doppelganger. Okay. when we make these maps, we show to different people who produce, who are actors inside. And we see that each peoples in these systems, like here in this room, are in a specific box. And all the boxes are separated. And you have no real interest to have like a dialogue and to have interrelations between the different boxes. And for us, it was very interesting because we think, okay, it's interesting to make a map, but it could be also a way, a tool to think together about this system and how we want to use it. And there are just one person who are very interested by this map. It's a guy it's a president from the agriculture chamber it's a quite very important place in a certain region of France. And it says it's a very good tool to sell this system to the country in North Africa. Then for us, it was a real question about the meaning of the cartography and the use we can have. And it was also a reason we decided to not just map, but also to have a direct action. This title, it's Society of Control, is a reality studio. We see that we have a production of reality, production of bodies, and it's just a part of the system. It's just for non-human bodies, but we can make the same maps in different domains. And after mapping that, we think, okay, is it possible to cut up? You have reality studios, this concept from William Burroughs, and this question of cut-ups. It's literary techniques, but this could be also a social technique. And we have discussion with people in a trade union, for example, and say, okay, this map about the system, but the problem is it is a dominant representation of this system. It works like that, but how we can move from this representation of the system? Then the first try we do was to begin by us, where we are. Donc me. Yes, we can make the critics of that. It's a very limited approach, but we don't know exactly how can we do, and we decide to do that. Me, what I feel, what I do, what I think, what I speak, what I eat, what I drink, how I move, and what are all the points where I am connected with the system, and where I can also make cut up in the system. For example, if I don't want to use train, I can not using train. It's not so easy, but you have also, there is this question, when we are real decision, not just make action inside the system, but if we want to have other action, how we can do, where we can cut, where we make real decisions. And yes, it's very impressionist map of that, and you cannot read it because yes, it's very small. But yes, you have verbs, and around you have like a cloud of companies. It's all the companies we are connected. When we go by car, for example, we use petroleum, and then we produce some wars and like that. We are in a global system, and we are a part of it, and how we can make some decision in this system. Then, in a way, it's also a critique of cartography. And we think it's also important to make like a cartography scale 1. Then we decide to go to the countryside, but it's not a nostalgic idea to go in the countryside, because we think we are like in a factory planet, in a laboratory planet. You have no inside and outside. We are in a very small place. When you see the sky, you see satellites, and you have bombs also in the satellites, and it's very, very small. But we think there are different kinds of societies, and with different social compositions. And we think when you live in Paris, Paris is very poor in social beings. You have just human beings. You have very, very few vegetables beings and animals beings. And for us, it was important to have a more diverse and complex social context. Then we moved to the countryside, and it was also for us like an experimental situation. We think, okay, we map, but how we can change the situation? And for example, we make some maps about property, but if here we can go out from property. And then if we create a fund, for example, the objective of this fund is to go out from property. It's quite a paradox, but it's possible. And we think it's possible also to create a currency, to go out from salaria. Yes, it's different steps. And to make different try. And it's easier because it's easier in the countryside, because the cities are very expensive. I think Berlin is very expensive now, and it's also, you have strong effects for the artist and the creator, because yes, you must, the first post is to pay the people who own apartments, and to go out of property. It's also a step to go out from when we work, like quite all our money, or the half of our money go in to pay apartment. And we think it's a very artistic question also, and design question, to go out from property. Okay, the other point is, but maybe I stop. It's in this place, yes, there is this analysis of the system, and we think, okay, in this place we can organize to have collective organizations, and also things about the relationships between humans and non-humans. And it's not countryside like the opposition to the modern, the first modern difference between the center and the periphery. You have cities, countryside, culture, nature, society, community, like that. I think it's not the reality. The countryside is a very sophisticated context, because the multi-spaces context is very complex. You have very social, it's very sophisticated to articulate different species together. Then it's not a nostalgia. We think it's during a long time we say, okay, the culture is in the city, but maybe it's not the case now. Maybe it changed. Maybe it's not the future. Maybe there are different future, and it's the basis for our choice to yes, to move in the countryside and as a place where we can invent new form for our life. Okay, thank you.